I'm your host, Joel Perez, and you're watching Wrestling with Politics. And today we're once again going to be discussing the death of Charlie Kirk. But today we've learned some new details about the death of Charlie Kirk, and this is probably going to be my last video towards the topic for a little while. But I had to make this one last video because some interesting details have come out around who possibly did this, who's possibly responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, and they have found a suspected killer, and he is in custody, a man by the name of Tyler Robinson. But Tyler Robinson has now denied shooting Charlie Kirk, and many online are now accusing Israel, the state of Israel, who we all know has committed many assassinations in the past. They are speculating, and I believe that they are responsible for the death of an entire U.S. president. We all know the history when it comes to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and he had some outspoken words to say about Israel. And when it comes to Charlie Kirk, at first, I thought that Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel. I thought that he was a diehard Israel supporter, and he was. But it turns out, and I didn't know this when I made my first video about Charlie Kirk, but I know this now. It turns out that in the weeks before Charlie Kirk's death, he was starting to criticize and question what's really going on with the Zionist state of Israel. Are they committing ethnic cleansing in Gaza? He was starting to ask some of these questions, and given what Charlie Kirk did for work, going to college campuses, talking to people in person, unlike these powerful politicians, Charlie Kirk actually had to confront the views of regular everyday people. And when you confront the views of regular everyday people, sooner rather than later, you're bound to run into the truth. And that's exactly what happened when Charlie Kirk would go to these college campuses. He would get confronted over the truth about what's going on in Gaza. He would get confronted about why is Israel cutting off electricity, food, and water to an entire population. If Israel says that they're going after Hamas, why are they bombing schools? Why are they bombing hospitals? Why are they bombing mosques? These questions were being asked to Charlie Kirk, and he couldn't avoid these questions for much longer, and he was starting to question himself. Why can't he say anything about Israel? Why can't he criticize the Zionist regime like he can talk about almost all these other issues? Well, it turns out that the reason why is because if you speak bad about Israel, you're gonna end up exactly how Charlie Kirk ended up. And that's not the only piece of evidence pointing towards the direction that it was Israel. Like I said, we've already seen the amount of carnage and the way in which Israel commits its crimes. They've taken out U.S. presidents. They shot John F. Kennedy right in the head. Charlie Kirk was shot right in the neck, and we've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians taken out the same way, not to mention everything that's gone on with all these wars and how Israel has dragged us into all of this. And beyond the fact, Charlie Kirk's audience, look at who was listening to Charlie Kirk. These were young people, and probably the last cohort of young people who was still supporting Israel. So if Charlie Kirk was to begin to start speaking bad about Israel, that wouldn't go very well for Netanyahu and Israel's propaganda machine, which that seems to be all they care about. They don't care about whether or not they're affecting and killing thousands of people. They only care about how the optics look. They only care about how bad it looks for them on the news. And so if Charlie Kirk, one of Israel's most diehard supporters, and that's probably why they killed Charlie Kirk, because they saw Charlie Kirk and they said, you're one of us and you're starting to turn against us. What's going on here? They probably took that as a big offense, a bigger offense than if, let's say, Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson starts talking bad about Israel. These people, they never were diehard supporters of Israel. They never professed their loyalty to Israel, but Charlie Kirk did. And for him to turn their back on them, they probably saw that as a grave offense. And the other piece of evidence here that needs to be mentioned is that 2 weeks before his death, Charlie Kirk was offered a trip to Israel, which he denied. And Benjamin Netanyahu was one of the first people to tweet after Charlie Kirk's death. And in that tweet, he mentions the fact that Charlie Kirk, he's not going to be able to make that trip to Israel anymore. So how ominous does that sound? And Benjamin Netanyahu, a guy who's currently committing a genocide and in charge of a whole government, you would expect him to be a busy guy. But on the day of Charlie Kirk's death, he was the first one to tweet about it, to the point where he was the one who announced the news to the world. He tweeted about it even before our own president, Donald Trump. So how the hell was Bibi Netanyahu the first one to this story, unless perhaps he had some inside dealings with what's going on here? And that's another piece of evidence which this leads us to. It doesn't look like Tyler Robinson, a college student, was going to be able to pull off a hit of this scale on his own. Look at the type of shooting that this was. This was a professionally done shooting. This was, the story is what the government and the news is claiming it is. This was a shooting that was done from over 200 yards away. It was a super long shot, and this guy was on a rooftop. How did he get there undetected? Again, how did a college student pull all of this off on his own? And if you look back into the video of Charlie Kirk's shooting, it looks like there's multiple shooters. You can see one guy, one security guard, looking like he's shooting something from under his arm. You see another guy in a white shirt kind of pointing something that looks like a gun at Charlie Kirk. So you don't know what's going on here. There's multiple official stories, a lot of speculation going on here. And I'm not going to come out and officially say that it was Israel in this video, but what I will tell you is that it certainly looks like it was Israel. And I personally, the more I look into this story, it's certainly looking in that direction, because another piece of evidence here, and perhaps the most damning piece of evidence of all, is what was going on 2 days before Charlie Kirk's death. If you go back and you watch an interview between Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, which happened 2 days, like I said, before Charlie Kirk died, in this interview, Charlie Kirk is asking Ben Shapiro all the tough questions, all the hard-hitting questions that you would want to see somebody ask Ben Shapiro about the Gaza genocide. And I believe at one point in that interview, Charlie Kirk even ends up accusing Israel of ethnic cleansing in Gaza. And Ben Shapiro certainly raised his eyebrows in that moment. And okay, maybe that doesn't specifically signal to anything, but what makes this all the more suspicious is that now, after Charlie Kirk has died, who's taking over for Charlie Kirk on his show? And who's taking over Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's entire network? None other than Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. So what the hell is going on here? And then on top of that, he's not just taking over the guy's entire network, the guy's entire show. He's also taking over the college tour that Charlie Kirk was supposed to be doing across the entire United States. So how convenient is that for Israel? Instead of having Charlie Kirk doing the college tour, speaking to everybody face to face, doing the debate across America, instead of having Charlie Kirk, who was starting to question the Zionist regime, they instead replace him with one of the most diehard supporters of Israel, Ben Shapiro. So how suspicious is that? At first, I thought it was a stretch to accuse Israel of playing a part here. Why would they kill Charlie Kirk? Why would they kill one of their most diehard supporters? Well, it turns out that if you keep looking into this, and that's what I was questioning in my head, what did Charlie Kirk say right before he died? What was this guy saying that would get him killed, that would incite somebody to want to kill him? Well, he was saying the prevailing truth, and he was starting to turn his back on the Zionist lobby. And so when you put all of that together, and then on top of that, all the evidence I just laid out for you, it starts to make a lot of sense that it might have been Israel once again who hired a professional assassin, a Mossad agent. Who knows what was the case here? But it might have been Israel who once again had their hands on the trigger. And if that's the case, that would just add to the severe, sinister list of crimes that the Zionist regime has committed. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was Israel. And to be quite honest, the more you look into the story, all paths start to lead back to Israel. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that even Charlie Kirk's own people have been saying that Charlie Kirk was afraid of speaking out against Israel. He was afraid of what they might do to him if he spoke out. So what does that say right there? But for now, that's all the evidence I have for you. And I'm going to let you make your own conclusions. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below, because this is certainly an interesting one. What do you think? Is this another plot? Is this another case of Israel being able to do whatever they want in the United States and completely being able to get away with it? They've killed one of the biggest political commentators, one of the thought leaders of the political sphere, at least on the conservative side, and they've once again been completely able to get away with it. What would this say if this is the case? Keep a close eye on this story, because you might just be surprised to find out that Israel did commit this crime. And if they did, it just goes to show exactly what the hell is wrong with the United States. A foreign entity has run amok and is committing crimes and is killing our own people. And the United States government, they're not willing to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, if Israel actually did commit this crime, well, then this would be another case of the United States helping Israel get away with their crimes, covering up for it on the news and on the mainstream media, and completely allowing them to get away with it. Just completely despicable. And if that's what happened to Charlie Kirk, well, then anybody who's responsible for it, they deserve to be called out and they deserve to be held accountable. And if that's the Zionist lobby, you guys already know that we're going to call them out as soon as we find out that it was definitively them. But for now, you guys can let me know in the comment section below, what are you thinking? Is the evidence definitively pointing towards Israel? It seems to be so. Well, you can let me know your opinion on this controversial topic once again in the comment section down below. For now, that's all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.